Another edition of Beat the Closing Number. Steven Andress filling in for Eli Hershkovich again this week on vacation. He will be back Thursday with the Thursday edition of the show. But as always, Nuwwarah joins us here, senior writer at thelines.com. It is week 18. A lot to go through here on the early week episode of Beat the Closing Number. We're going to talk through some of the wild card and division clinching scenarios, what that means for the spreads. We'll share any early week bets we might have made and any numbers that we may be targeting if they move any more. But first of all, Mo, how are you? How did week 17 treat you?
Good week for me. Good week for me in week 17. Not the best on a personal level, unfortunately. Feeling a little under the weather, but outside of that, we're doing fine.
Well, it's one thing to be sick and losing bets. At least if you're sick and winning bets, it's a little bit easier to manage, right? Glass half full. Hope you feel better, though, and appreciate you coming on and slogging through this. It's always a little tough to do a pod when you're feeling under the weather, so thank you for that, my friend. Let's get started here right away. Let's jump right into this, and we'll start with the AFC South race / wild card race because there's a lot going on here. The Houston Texans travel to take on the Indianapolis Colts Saturday night, 8:15 p.m. kickoff. Colts are a 1 to 1.5 point favorite, depending on where you shop, total at 47.5. The Jaguars do not play until 1 o'clock Eastern time on Sunday. They are 5.5 point road favorites at Tennessee with a total of 40. Now, in terms of the clinching scenarios for this division, it's very simple for the Jags. If they win on Sunday, they win the division. Now, they can also clinch a playoff berth despite a loss, I believe, if they also get a Steelers and Broncos loss. And, of course, the Colts and Texans don't end at a tie. We're going to try and avoid the tie nonsense. Well, if that happens, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But on the Colts-Texans side, it's very simple. If the Colts win, they're in. If the Texans win, they're in. They get a playoff spot at the very least, and then possibly the division if the Jags also lose. So that's where we're at here. Those are the opening numbers, Mo. How do you kind of handicap or your reaction to the lines we have for these two games here in the AFC South?
I think the more interesting one from a betting perspective is the Jaguars game. I think I like the Texans a little bit in the other game. Anything plus I think is fine. I kind of think they should be small favorites, but I think it's going to...
CJ Stroud, right?
I think it's going to be hard for that one to hit any sort of key number either way. So it's just like, you just know that it should be somewhere between like Texans -2 and Colts -2. So, a little bit interested in Texans because I just think they're a better team than the Colts by some small margin. The other game, though, I do like the Titans, unfortunately, but I've had a lot of success, honestly, in week 18/17 in my life. Historically, it's been like one of my best weeks. Just have always done well betting the non-intuitive side, which I think this is obviously the non-intuitive side. Everyone just looks at, okay, Titans are Cancun, Jaguars are playing for playoff spot. Of course, the Jaguars will win. And then everyone just slams that side. Usually, if you take the other side of these, you're doing pretty well, in my experience. And
yeah, because the quote unquote motivated team has an inflated spread, right? And with these two teams, we literally saw the same thing last year. Jags had to fight tooth and nail against Josh Dobbs off the street when he was on the Titans and almost lost the game outright and definitely did not cover against Tennessee.
Yeah, I had Titans big in that one. And yeah, it's just kind of that Titans team obviously had something to play for, but they're still going to come out and play hard. It's a Mike Vrabel team. They're not going to mail it in and just let a division rival get in for free. Nobody does that. So I like the Titans quite a bit. I cannot believe this line is as high as it is. I know the Titans played like complete garbage last week, and
here's the question though, Mo. Like, when do you make the bet? Is it still gonna move? Because I mean, if it's already moved this much, like we're in a dead number right now, 5.5. Like, could we get 6? Could we get 6.5?
Yeah,
here?
I could see that happening. Especially once Trevor Lawrence is confirmed in, which I'm assuming this is pricing him in. So, I think the number could get better. But yeah, I think this line is pretty heavily inflated. I mean, we saw how bad this Jaguars offense looked for multiple weeks with no outside receivers and a less than 100% quarterback. And that's probably the same situation they're going to be in this week. So hard to imagine Zay Jones just coming back that quick, I guess. I don't believe he played, and I haven't heard any rumblings that he was close to playing. So we'll see how that situation developed. And yeah, I think they pretty much said Christian Kirk is probably out for the year. So would expect them to have a depleted receiving core, would expect them to have a quarterback who is not 100%. And yeah, I'll be on the Titans for sure at home here.
Just as a reference point, I think it was week 11 is when these two teams played before, with a fully healthy Trevor Lawrence, with a fully healthy Christian Kirk still there in Jacksonville. And in Jacksonville, the Jags were minus 6.5. And now with potentially Ryan Tannehill, which I see as, not a downgrade from Will Levis at the very least. We're basically near the same number now. Like, we're 5.5 on the road for Jacksonville. Like, this is inflated for Jacksonville, to say the least. I agree with you. I'm already sitting on Jags futures to win the division. I may be interested in at least taking some of that potential profit and trying to middle this with the Titans spread on the other side if we get even higher here later in the week. Let's move forward here to the NFC South scenario, and we have the Atlanta Falcons taking on the New Orleans Saints. Now, right now, the Falcons are 3.5 point road underdogs with a total of 42.5. Meanwhile, the Buccaneers are on the road to take on the Carolina Panthers. Both of these are 1:00 Eastern time kickoffs, so we'll have simultaneous games going on, trying to figure out who's going to emerge from this mediocre at best division. The Bucs are 5.5 point road favorites, total of 37.5. Scenarios: Bucs get a second chance. If they win and they beat the Panthers, they win the division. On the other side, it's very simple. The winner of the Falcons-Saints game is alive. They win the division if they also get a Bucs loss. So that's where we're at here. Eli is on vacation. He didn't join us, but he did share his first bet for this week in the lines.com free Discord, top right-hand corner of the homepage. You can click on the button and join. He is betting the Panthers here. He got it at 6. We're at 5.5 here. And I imagine, I don't want to speak for him, but having been his editor for the entire season and seeing what he's written, he's fading some of the turnover luck here, I assume, with Tampa Bay. It happened again last week with the Saints, came back down to earth. And I assume he's doing the same here again on an inflated number. Do you have any strong opinions either about this Bucs game or on the other side where we do have the starters playing in earnest here between the Falcons and the Saints?
I like both underdogs here. I'm with Eli. Unfortunately, on the Panthers.
Panthers and Titans to start your week,
Mo. Me last week. I had a good number. Was with you. We both got +7, I think, on that one, and they just absolutely no-showed. But it's just a Bucs team that doesn't inspire you, a poorly coached team that can be explosive in the passing game at times, but also can be stuck in the mud, running the ball into the middle of the line quite a bit. And I just don't think there's this much difference between these teams where the Bucs should be. I had this one at Bucs -3.5, so I just think this is a little bit too high. I like the Falcons too, man. I mean, this is just the rule of the Saints all year. Every time they play a good game, you can just auto-fade them the next week because they're just going to take a dump on the field.
And every time the Falcons play a bad game, that's when to hop back on, right? Lose by 20 to the Bears last week. The week before, they beat the Colts by 19. The week before that, they lose to the Panthers 9-7. Like, these are the seesaw teams, and the seesaw tells us Falcons in the points if you're going to go by that method.
These teams are not far apart at all. I think they're like pretty much. I don't think I have more than 2 or 3 spots between them in my power rankings. I don't even know if I have the Saints above the Falcons, to be honest. Like, they've been all in the same tier the whole season. Like, how are the Falcons are up to 3.5 now? I saw this morning all 3s, I think, and there's already some 3.5s hitting the board. Like, somebody's hitting the Saints.
Motivation, Mo. The motivation. Like, I think people are maybe forgetting the Falcons are still motivated too.
Somebody's hitting the Saints and just expecting another good performance. And it's just all season's been the same story with the Saints. If they play a good game, they're going to take a dump on the field the next week. And I'm pretty happy to take 3.5, I think, here with the Falcons. Although I don't think anybody has any idea what they're going to do at quarterback. But at this point, I mean, it's pretty much like, who cares? So I just think these teams are very close. This line should be below 3, and I'm going to take the Falcons at 3.5 for sure.
Yeah, basically our staff is pretty much in agreement here. Like, the Saints are high teens at best in the power rankings, and the Falcons are low 20s. So even if it's like 4 or 5 spots difference at the most, I mean, it's still in this tier hard to get to 3.5 points between these two teams. So I agree with you on that. Absolutely. Moving forward here, the NFC East has been flipped on its head. The Cowboys were 5-1 or longer to win the division just a couple of weeks ago. The Eagles completely melt down. They lose to the Cardinals. Now it's the Cowboys who control their destiny to win the NFC East. And all they have to do is go on the road to take on the Washington Commanders as 13.5 point favorites, total of 45.5. The Giants host the Eagles. The Eagles are 5.5 point favorites, total of 41.5. Two interesting things to me here, Mo, with these two games kicking off at the same time around 4:25 Eastern time on Sunday. I think the Eagles, you've been talking about taking some dogs that are undervalued just because people are, hot and heavy to bet the motivation angle. There's 2 teams on the slate this week who have proper motivation, I think, but are getting downgrade or cheaper spreads. So I'm curious if you see this line on the Eagles and think it's a bit of an overreaction to bump them all the way down under the key number of 6, despite that they theoretically have something still to play for. And also, I'm just taking the Cowboys in the points here. Anything under 14, I'm just going to take. The Commanders are dead team. They have nothing left. I don't care if Brissett plays. If he does, he's probably still got a hamstring issue. And like, the Cowboys boat race teams like this. Like, they score 40 in a lot of these games when they play like this. And this is the most motivated they will have been the entire season. So I get fading motivation when, there's actually a viable opponent on the other sideline, but I don't think that's the case here with Washington.
I do think this spread's a little bit inflated, but I don't think I'm going to play Washington for the same reasons you said. I mean, every time I try to fade the Cowboys in these spots with these double-digit spreads, they just win 41-10 or whatever, and it's just like, I'm just sick of taking those L's. And I left Washington for dead a month ago, so I quit betting them after they got steamrolled by Miami. I said, I'm done with Washington. That's it for me. No more Washington for me. Even though I think this spread is too high, I'm off it on Washington. And yeah, I'm with you on the Eagles though. Actually, I don't know why this number is so low. This number is telling us that the Eagles are a worse team than the Rams. I mean, I've been the lowest man on the Eagles all year, I think, but I can't get there. I mean, this is
these two teams played 2 weeks ago. They played 2 weeks ago in Philadelphia, and the Eagles were 13.5 point favorites. Now, I know DeVito started that game and Tyrod came in, so you have to adjust a little bit for that. But we're going to go from 13.5 2 weeks ago, flip venues, and now we're only at 5?
Yeah. I mean, Tyrod's probably multiple points better than DeVito, but at the same time, like, the Eagles are just a better version of the Rams, aren't they? I mean, stellar passing game, strong running game, horrific defense.
I would at least put them like close at this point, just because of how much Jalen Hurts turns the ball.
I have them close
over.
in my power ranking. Like I have the Rams like 11th and the Eagles like 7th or whatever. Like there's not a huge.
Yeah, we've all downgraded the Eagles. The Eagles are top 5 for most of this year, and basically our whole staff has them, outside the top 6 at this point.
Yeah, I just think this team should be able to move the ball for sure at will against the Giants. I mean, the Giants, they almost beat the Rams, but I mean, they had a 90-yard punt return touchdown. I mean, some crazy thing, the million sacks. That's why I'm skeptical of the Rams, because they still have an immobile quarterback and a mediocre offensive line at best. But that's not the case with Philly. Like, even if you get pressure, I mean, Jalen Hurts can escape. Jalen Hurts can throw some jump balls to very, very good receivers. I just think they're better equipped to handle the Giants, and they're just a better team than the Rams. So when that line's closing 6.5, I don't understand how this is 5. So I definitely thought the Eagles would be much bigger favorites here on the other side of 7, to be honest. So I'm with you. This line is crazy low, unless they're just like, I guess the interesting thing about this game is like, if it's 27-0 Cowboys, do the Eagles just pull everybody? But
yeah, that's what I'm concerned about too. I'm actually concerned about that going into the game, Mo, because like the Eagles know the Cowboys are very unlikely to lose. So do the Eagles actually rest more players than they normally would, knowing the stakes are, or the chances are pretty slim?
I could see like
here.
People on the border maybe. I just wonder, should we like bet first half, like Eagles -3, I guess, first half, maybe minus 3.5. Like that might be a better play than Eagles full game. But then again, it's like, are the Giants like a backdoor team? I don't know, because of their passing game.
Yeah, I think step one for me is hearing from Nick Sirianni and the Eagles. Like, are they going to play all their starters? That's step one. If that's the case, then yeah, I got to bet the Eagles in some form or fashion here. This is too cheap. We also need to keep an eye out for Devonta Smith. He was seen in a boot and on crutches after the game. So, I mean, I don't think teams look at these games in the way that we do as bettors with the spreads, right? Like the Eagles are not going to say, well, the Cowboys are probably going to beat the Commanders. We're not even going to play our starters. I mean, they would get roasted like you wouldn't believe if by some miracle the Cowboys lost that game and they benched their starters and they didn't beat the
Washington
Giants.
won this game last year.
Yeah, 100%. So I fully expect the Eagles to at least play who's available. Like if the question becomes like, if a guy is questionable, do they push him or do they just sit him out? And that's where we're probably not going to know until Friday or when the full injury report comes out. So that's what I'm going to be waiting here. But if we're still in this, if we're still in this neighborhood come late week, then I'm basically going to have to bet the Eagles if it's under 6 still. Honestly, I might bet it at 6 at that point. So we'll see. Details to come there for sure. NFC wildcard race. The Packers now control their destiny for a playoff spot, but they're in a similar spot to last year where they have a division opponent who is red hot, playing well, and is going to give them everything they want, despite the Bears already being eliminated. Last year, it was the Lions who came in and did it to the Packers. This year, they're going to have to try and avoid the Bears playing spoiler here. If the Packers lose, the Seattle Seahawks can get in if they beat the Arizona Cardinals. Spreads for these games. Packers are 3-point home favorites, total of 44. The Seattle Seahawks are 3-point road favorites, total of 47.5. And Mo, like we mentioned with the Philadelphia Eagles and not understanding the spread and people fading them off of a poor performance, I kind of see the same thing here with Seattle. Them getting their butt whipped by Pittsburgh. Arizona looks really good against Philadelphia. Isn't this spread too low as well for Seattle?
I thought it was a little bit too low, yeah. But it's still close enough to where, like, I projected this one at 4. So I don't know. I'm definitely not going to lay it with Seattle because I'm already invested in Seattle. Unfortunately, I do need a playoff ticket for them to win a bet. So I'm just going to hope for the best here. But I don't think I'm in the worst spot here because I kind of like Seattle. And
I agree.
I do like Chicago. I don't think the line should be 3. I have Chicago. I have Chicago ahead of Green Bay in my power ranking. I think I had them ahead of power ranking
Me
last
too.
week. I think Chicago's better than Green Bay. Why not? I've been impressed with Green Bay all year too, but I just think Chicago's good. Like what they just keep every single week they come out and outperform the market. 6 weeks in a row, or what is it now? I don't know. They just keep. How many times have they won as underdogs? I mean,
Mo, I put it this way. I went back and checked, and I had almost forgotten that if it wasn't for the Bears blowing double-digit fourth quarter leads twice, they would be on a 7-game winning streak right now.
Bears
and
season
easily into the playoffs. Yeah. And it's wild. Like the market has not adjusted this team enough, despite the fact that bettors have come in mostly every week.
The Sharps hammer the Bears heavily every week.
Yeah. Now they didn't really do it on Sunday,
not this
right?
Week, pretty much,
because the market adjusted a little bit, but like this to me is like adjusting them back down or adjusting the Packers too far up.
Maybe they killed the Falcons.
Yeah, I don't understand it. There was a rogue 3.5 Sunday night or Monday. I grabbed that. I don't think we're seeing 3.5 again in this game. I think +3 is just fine. And if you don't want to do that, I think Moneyline's good here too. I think they're going to win.
There's a good chance too. I mean, so the Packers came out and they just beat a fake football team with a fake quarterback. Like that game was so meaningless. They didn't have a chance because they put a guy who cannot be on an NFL field in to take snaps. And the Packers got a free win on national TV by 20 points or whatever it was. And people are, I guess, giving them credit for that. And they really shouldn't be. Like they just really shouldn't be. This Packers defense still stinks. The Bears are going to come out and pound the rock, and they're going to probably have success doing that. And their DBs are good. I just think the Bears are a good football team.
I agree. I might ladder the spread a little bit here, like 2.5 the other way, maybe even like 6.5 for some of it. I think the Bears are clearly better. I'll be on Seattle too. The interesting note here is like we're recording this Tuesday afternoon, and believe it or not, it's the 3s for Arizona that are juiced. So there's increased interest in betting Arizona +3. If this ever touches 2.5 anywhere, auto bet Seattle.
Yeah, I'd have to bet Seattle at 2.5 for sure.
Yeah, totally. All right, we're in sync then on that scenario, that's for sure. And let's kind of close up shop here with the AFC East race on Sunday Night Football. The Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. Miami's very banged up, and I think that's why we've seen early interest here on Buffalo. This was 2.5. We're now at a full 3 for the Bills on the road, total of 50.5. Miami now has lost its top 2 pass rushers for the season in Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb. Jalen Waddle still questionable for this. I don't know what you think, Mo, but I still think Tyreek Hill's playing hurt and nowhere near 100%. And not to mention their offensive line continues to just battle injuries every single week. So I have not been impressed with Buffalo. You and I both have AFC futures on them. They were outgained in yards per play to the New England Patriots. Maybe that was just game state and Zappe handed them the ball and they're happy to go conservative and just get out of there with a win. But this is now 2 weeks in a row against the Chargers and the Patriots. I have not been impressed with Buffalo, but at the same time, they're getting Miami at the perfect time here. So it's almost 2 teams I want to bet against, and they're playing each other.
Yeah, absolutely with you on this one. I do. If you made me bet this game, first of all, I think I like the under 50.5 with the way these offenses are playing seems crazy to me. I know it's going to be like,
it's like a Miami under from all year, right? Like that's a number that you post if Miami's at full strength. That's what we've seen all year. But like, given what we know at this point,
I like the under in this game quite a bit, and I'll probably bet it. When was the last time Buffalo's offense looked good? I mean, it's been weeks. It's unless you count like their rushing offense.
Should we say passing
like
offense?
Their running game has looked good against obviously the Cowboys, but other than that, you got to throw the ball to win against good teams in the NFL. I mean, this is not going to work against Miami. Like, if you made me pick a side here, I think I would take the Dolphins. But I'm just riding with my division bet. I have plus 130 basically on the Bills in this game, so it's a spot I'm happy to be in, especially the way most of the season went. I'll probably play the under because the Bills offense just is looking clunky for multiple weeks now, and then Miami. I mean, the Bills lived off turnovers last week. That was incredible sloppy play from the Patriots, just handing them the ball over and over.
But hat tip the Patriots for still covering 13. We love you, Patriots.
Thanks.
That was awesome
for them to keep going. I didn't think their offense was going to do as much lifting as it did, but that was nice for us.
I know.
But I'm not impressed with what the Bills are doing on offense. It's been quite some time since I thought they looked good. And the Dolphins, like you said, just a million injuries. But at the same time, Tua is probably not going to give the ball away. He's usually pretty careful. I mean, he does have some, like his arm strength leaves a couple ducks a game that can get picked off. He doesn't make horrible decisions. It's just, I think it's his arm. And as long as he's just not giving the ball away, which obviously could happen, and it's good weather too. I think that's maybe, I haven't got that far in my weather article, but I'm just assuming Miami is going to be good weather. So good conditions for offense probably, but I just think two offenses that you just can't trust to put up a big game right now.
I might blow your mind with this one. Buffalo with Josh Allen at quarterback is down to 26th in the NFL this season in pass play percentage. In the last 3 games, they are dead last. They've only thrown the ball 37% of the time. That is 8% less than the number 31 team, Pittsburgh. They have run the ball 63% of the time, Mo, in the last 3 weeks. That's nuts.
I think that's...
And like to your...
What was most surprising wasn't that they necessarily tried to run the ball, because that's what they keep doing. It was how poor Josh Allen was when he threw the ball against the Patriots. I mean, threw a pick, 169 yards on 30 attempts. I mean, they could barely muster 5 yards per attempt against the Chiefs. He obviously barely threw for any yards. Didn't have to in the Cowboys game, but Chargers game was just like whatever. He had a 19 QBR against the Patriots. I mean, dude, they got to clean this up before they play like real teams and real games. I'm like not feeling as good as I was a month ago, which is crazy to say about my Bills future. But yeah, it's just not. Something's not clicking in their passing game. Stephon Diggs did he hit a wall? Like, I don't know what's going on. He's not getting open like he was.
He's not getting targeted either. If I'm not mistaken, if the Bills win this game like we both expect them to do, they will be the 2 seed because they have the tiebreaker over Kansas City. So that would set up a game against Lord knows who. I guess if Jags win the division, they're playing the winner of the Colts or the Texans in the first round. If it's CJ Stroud on the road in Buffalo in the 2-7 matchup, that's at least a little interesting. Passing offense versus rushing offense at this point. So cross that bridge when we get to it next week, if that's the case. But it's something to put in the back.
Yeah, for sure. Here. Somebody gives me 7 on the Texans. I'm taking it.
Fair enough. Yeah. I love your under angle. I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm with you. I also have Bills over 10.5 wins and division futures that somehow have gotten to the finish line after that lull. But something happened during that bye week, man, because that's the only kind of like landmark I can find in the schedule. The week before the Bills bye week, they had that game in Philadelphia where Josh Allen just went scorched earth. However, had the crippling turnover at the end that cost them the game. And then after that, they've been the most run heavy team in the NFL. So I don't know. It's odd to say the least. So Mo, before we wrap up, just wanted to give you one final chance here. If there's anything else on the week 18 board that caught your interest before we close up shop.
So I
and if not, that's okay.
We touched on most of the games, just giving one more glance through, and no.
I will while you take a look. I'll share one I'm also betting. I'm still betting the Patriots this week against the Jets. I bet a money line. I'd still bet them.
I had
under
that
3.
one like as pretty fair. I think I'm a little bit interested in the Browns. I mean, PJ Walker can cover 6 against a Bengals team with nothing to play for,
Jake
right?
Browning, yeah.
I don't know. The Bengals defense, they can't stop anybody. And the Chiefs should have scored 35 points in that game. They just kicked a million field goals. I'm a little bit interested in the Browns.
Why is the total 39, by the way? If the Browns are going to bench all their defensive starters and the Bengals have the worst defense in the league, why is the total 39?
I mean, that makes sense to me as well. So another, the most maybe interesting game as just a comedy sideshow of like what is going to happen is the Steelers-Ravens game, because it's like, from what I'm reading on Twitter, the Ravens should actually want to lose, because technically the Super Bowl path gets harder for them if Buffalo gets in. And the best way for them to keep Buffalo out is for the Steelers to win the game. So we might see some weird play calling in that one. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, isn't Tyler Huntley and the Ravens backups just as good as the Steelers, and they're at home getting 4? So I don't even know what to do with that one.
I mean, that's more, by my estimations here, looking at market consensus ratings, this is more than 10 points off of what the spread would normally be if the starters were in. So like, is this move with the Ravens benching guys, etc., worth more than 10 points to you? Because that's basically what you have to agree with to bet Pittsburgh at this point, which is nuts.
Yeah, and they should just have negative motivation. But at the same, the players are going to try to win that are on the field. So like the only thing I can think of is that they're going to do like the most vanilla play calls. I was saying what they should do. I texted my buddy that they need to get a burner email and send the Steelers all of their keys, like and just hope the Steelers are competent enough to take advantage.
And of course, if the Steelers make the playoffs, hope that they don't play them again.
Yeah, you change your keys at that point.
It's funny though. Yeah, you know. I will give McDonald credit on defense. Like, he's one of the few defensive coordinators now that are game planning week to week and not just rolling out the same defense every week, which is, you know, Belichickian. I'll put it that way. So credit to him for that. All right, Mo. Busy week. One of your favorites, despite all the plug your nose situations. Cannot wait to see how Titans and Panthers works out for you. It's just a vintage Mo week for sure. It's going to be awesome. Eli will be back for the full show, the final decisions on Mo and Eli's bets on Beat the Closing Number on Thursday. I'll be back on the Megapod on Friday with Matt Brown and Adam Candy. Matt and I are also going to do a future show on Wednesday on the YouTube channel, so keep an eye out for that. For Moneylines, I'm Steven Andress. Best of luck with your bets in NFL Week 18.